Hello students, welcome to Sumaya English Primary School, Class 6, and the subject is English Grammar, and the chapter is 33, and here is the next chapter, that is the question tags. What do you mean by the question tag? So this is the question tag, question mark, which we are saying. Here we are seeing all the sentences it has been given, which has asking the question, and we have the question tag. So sometimes what happens, we have to add a short question at the end of the sentences. That means we are asking the sentences, and at the end of the sentences just we are adding the short question when we are completing the sentences. To find out if the listeners agrees with you, that means to find out what the listener, that means to whom we are speaking, is agreeing or not, that short question, this short question is known as the question tags. Clear? That is known as a question tag. That means when we are making a statement, that means the starting is the statement, but the end of the statement just we are adding the short questions, that is known as the question tags. Always you have to remember the question tags end with the question mark only. And if the sentences is in affirmative, the question tag has a negative form, that means should not, in this way. And if the sentences is in the negative, the question tag will be in the positive, that means the word is the should. So this is the main formula which you have to remember when the sentence is in the affirmative and it has a question tag not. And when the sentences is startingly it has been in the negative, then the question tag will goes in the positive way. Clear? Then afterwards, in the sentences has no auxiliary verb. If the sentences has no auxiliary verb, that means a helper verb such as that means what happened? They dance well, don't they? In this way. And whenever the pronoun at the end of the question tag should agree with the subject of the sentence. That means at the end of the question tag, when there is a pronoun, that means it should agree with the subject of the sentences only. And what happens in some cases, I am getting ready, aren't I? That means this auxiliary in the tag for am is are. Here the am word is taken as an aren't, that means are, that is the auxiliary tag. Clear? In this way only the imperative sentence also, which began with the let. Let it has mean that goes in the shall, and in the imperative command also. So the next one is the apostrophe. This is a very simple punctuation which everyone knows, the apostrophe. This apostrophe is a short forms of forming to show a certain letters which are omitted. That means one sentences we are writing. That means suppose we used to write he had. For the he had we used to write in this way. So we are omitting some letters, that is the short form. At that time we are using the apostrophe. Is that clear? Mr. Thomas' house has a very pretty children's home. That means we use the apostrophe to show the possessive case of the noun for nouns. However, we do not use the apostrophe for possessive pronouns. That means we have to remember here, in the possessive pronouns, whenever we will see the possessive pronouns, at that time there will be no apostrophe has been used. That is the its, ours, yours. In this we are not using the apostrophe because this is the possessive noun. So the word its is a possessive noun, but it is used without an apostrophe. Clear? Its is a possessive noun, so we are using that it as without apostrophe. But the word its is also constructed as a short form because it is. We are omitting the words here. That means we are omitting the letter. Then also that means we have to use the apostrophe, but it must have an apostrophe. But the word it is a possessive pronoun, so it is used without an apostrophe. Clear? So you have to remember these things. Now the next chapter is the voice. Here is the two types of voice, that is the active voice and the passive voice we can see here. So in the active voice, there is a two types of voice, active voice and the passive voice. In the active voice, the subject is the doer of the action. That means in the active voice, the action passes from the subject to object. See here. From here, it has been the subject to the object. That means the active voice, always you have to remember that action passes from the subject to object. That means this Nitin threw the ball. That means this is subject and this is the object in the active. And in the passive voice, always you have to remember the action is done to the subject. That means the subject is not the doer of the action here. Here the subject was the doer of the action. That means here what happens? It is the just opposite. That means the subject is not the doer of the action, rather the action is done to it. That means first we are talking about here the action, then after the subject. That means here the subject is not there. The ball was thrown by Nitin. Now before the starting only we can see the action here. So these are the active and the passive. These are the main things which you have to remember. Now how we will change the voice? First step, always we have to bring the object to the subject position. First of all, we have to, how we will change the voice from the active to passive or the passive to active. That means first we have to bring the object to the subject position. Then afterwards take this subject words after the verb. That means after the verb we have to take the subject, the word by before it. Then afterwards change the verb to the passive form. See here has been example given. Someone killed the snake. This is the active. That means here the someone is the action is the clear. The action passes from the subject to the object here. So first we have seen the subject and the object. Now here we are changing this active into the passive. That means the snake was killed by. That means here first it has been the action is there. Here the subject is not there. Was killed by someone. This is known as the passive. So always you have to remember in the passive voice, if you don't know the doer of the action. In some sentences what happens, we don't know the doer of the action, what it has been. So or you don't want to give it to the important. So you can leave out the by. That means the by word. So always you have to remember after the verb we have to use the word by. See here you can see the passive voice and the active voice forms, how it has been changed, and we have to leave out the by plus noun phrase also at the end of the sentences. So this was the passive and the active voice. I hope so all the points are clear. Thank you.